Sergeant Tyrone Williams sat in the cold metal chair aboard the massive warship Thunderstrike*, watching holographic images flicker in front of him. The briefing room smelled like recycled air and fear. Around him, 30 other soldiers waited to hear about their next mission. Colonel Hayes stepped forward, his scarred face looking grim under the harsh lights. "Listen up, Marines. We're heading to a planet called Nova 7. The blue aliens there have been causing problems for our mining operations." Tyrone shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He'd been fighting aliens for 5 years now, ever since he joined the Colonial Marines at 18. Back then, he thought he was protecting humanity. Now, at 23, he wasn't so sure anymore. "These creatures attacked 3 of our settlements last month," the colonel continued, pointing at images of destroyed buildings. "Killed 4 to 7 innocent colonists, including women and children." The room filled with angry murmurs. Tyrone's friend Antoine Jackson, sitting next to him, clenched his fists. "Those monsters," Antoine whispered. Colonel Hayes raised his hand for silence. "Intelligence reports show they're planning more attacks. We can't let that happen. Your mission is simple: eliminate all hostile contacts in the target zone." The hologram changed, showing tall, blue-skinned beings with large dark eyes. They looked almost peaceful, Tyrone thought. But looks could be deceiving. "Sir, what about civilians?" asked Sergeant Lisa Thompson from the back row. The colonel's expression hardened. "There are no civilians among these aliens. Their young ones mature quickly and become fighters by age 10. Anyone who can hold a weapon is a threat to human lives." Tyrone's stomach twisted. He'd heard similar briefings before, but something felt different this time. The aliens in the images didn't look like the savage monsters from previous campaigns. They looked sad. "Your orders are clear," Colonel Hayes continued. "Sweep and clear. No survivors. We can't risk them regrouping and attacking our families back home." The word families hit Tyrone hard. He thought about his little sister Keisha, only 8 years old, living in the colony on Mars. She sent him drawings through the mail system, pictures of flowers and butterflies she'd never seen but imagined from Earth history books. "Questions?" the colonel asked. Nobody spoke. They all knew better than to question orders, especially ones this direct. After the briefing, Tyrone walked through the ship's corridors with Antoine and Lisa. The walls were covered with propaganda posters showing heroic human soldiers protecting Earth from alien threats. "Can't wait to get those blue freaks," Antoine said, checking his rifle for the 100th time. He'd lost his brother in an alien attack 2 years ago and never forgot it. Lisa was quieter. She'd been a teacher before joining the military, forced into service when her colony was attacked. "Do you ever wonder if we're doing the right thing?" she asked softly. "Of course we are," Antoine snapped. "They killed our people first. We're just defending ourselves." But Tyrone wasn't convinced. Each mission felt heavier than the last. The aliens they fought seemed more desperate than evil, more frightened than fierce. Still, orders were orders, and questioning them led to court-martial or worse. That night, Tyrone lay in his narrow bunk, staring at the ceiling. Around him, other soldiers slept fitfully, some talking in their dreams about home, others about the battles they'd fought. He pulled out a small photo of Keisha, her gap-toothed smile bright even in the dim light. She'd written on the back, "Come home safe, big brother. I love you." The ship's engines hummed constantly, carrying them toward another world, another mission, another chance to follow orders without thinking too hard about what those orders really meant. Tyrone closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but images from the briefing kept flashing in his mind. The sad eyes of the alien beings. The colonel's cold voice. The propaganda posters promising justice and protection. Tomorrow they would land on Nova 7. Tomorrow he would carry out his orders like the good soldier he trained to be. But tonight, in the darkness of his bunk, doubts crept into his mind like shadows. He thought about the teacher Lisa used to be, about Antoine's grief, about his own journey from hopeful young recruit to questioning veteran. War changed people, but maybe that wasn't always a bad thing. Maybe questions were more important than blind obedience. The ship continued its journey through space, carrying soldiers toward a destiny none of them could fully imagine. The dropship shook violently as it broke through Nova 7's atmosphere. Tyrone gripped his harness, watching purple clouds swirl past the small window. His stomach churned, but not from the rough landing, it was the mission ahead that made him feel sick. 2 minutes to touchdown, shouted the pilot over the engine noise. Around him, 20 Marines checked their weapons one final time. Antoine was muttering prayers under his breath, while Lisa stared straight ahead with empty eyes. Everyone dealt with pre-mission nerves differently. The ship hit the ground hard, throwing everyone forward. The back ramp dropped with a loud hiss, revealing an alien world bathed in strange orange sunlight. The air smelled sweet, like flowers mixed with something Tyrone couldn't identify. "Move out," ordered Lieutenant Rodriguez, the youngest officer Tyrone had ever served under. Fresh from the academy, Rodriguez believed every word of the propaganda videos. They stepped onto soft, spongy ground covered in what looked like purple grass. Tall trees with silver bark stretched toward two small moons visible in the daylight sky. It was beautiful, Tyrone had to admit. Nothing like the dead, gray worlds they usually fought on. "Target zone is half a click north," Rodriguez said, checking his scanner. "Intel shows multiple structures. Remember your orders, no survivors." The squad moved through the alien forest in formation. Strange bird-like creatures with four wings watched them from the trees, making musical sounds that almost seemed like warnings. Tyrone had never seen anything so peaceful. After 20 minutes of walking, they reached a clearing. What they found wasn't what anyone expected. "Where are the weapons?" Lisa whispered. Instead of a military compound, they discovered a small village of simple dome-shaped buildings made from the same silver material as the trees. Gardens full of colorful plants surrounded each home. Children's toys lay scattered in the purple grass, balls and dolls that looked remarkably similar to human playthings. "Contacts ahead," Antoine reported, pointing toward the largest building. A group of the blue-skinned aliens emerged slowly, their hands raised in what looked like surrender. They were tall and graceful, moving with fluid motions that reminded Tyrone of dancers. Their large dark eyes showed fear, but also something else, sadness. The lead alien, an elderly female with silver markings on her forehead, stepped forward. She spoke in their musical language, then switched to broken English. "Please," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We know fight. Children here. Families here." Lieutenant Rodriguez raised his rifle. "Hostile contact confirmed. Weapons free." "Sir, they don't look hostile," Tyrone said, surprised by his own words. "Orders are orders, Sergeant," Rodriguez snapped. "These creatures killed our people." But as Tyrone looked around, all he saw were frightened families clutching each other. An alien father held his young daughter protectively. Two elderly aliens supported each other with walking sticks. This wasn't an army, it was a refugee camp. "Execute the mission," Rodriguez commanded. The shooting started. Antoine fired first, then Lisa, then the others. The aliens didn't fight back. They didn't even run. They just held each other as they fell. Tyrone stood frozen, his rifle and fired. This felt wrong. Everything about this felt wrong. Through the chaos, he heard something that made his blood run cold, the sound of a child crying. Not an alien child, but crying that sounded exactly like his little sister when she was scared. Following the sound, Tyrone found a small alien boy hiding behind an overturned cart. The child was maybe 7 or 8 years old, with the same large eyes as the adults but brighter, more innocent. Tears streamed down his blue cheeks as he stared at Tyrone's weapon. The boy whispered something in his own language, then tried English. "Please, no hurt. Mama gone. Papa gone. Please." Tyrone raised his rifle. This was his order. This was his duty. The child was technically an enemy combatant according to military regulations. But all he could see was Keisha. All he could hear was his sister's voice saying, "Come home safe, big brother." "Sergeant Williams. Complete your mission," Rodriguez shouted from across the clearing. The alien boy looked up at Tyrone with those enormous eyes, waiting for death but somehow still hoping for mercy. In that moment, Tyrone saw something he'd forgotten during 5 years of war, pure, innocent trust. His finger trembled on the trigger. Everything he'd been taught said to pull it. Every order he'd received demanded it. But everything human inside him rebelled against it. The child reached out a small hand, not in defense, but in a gesture that needed no translation. He was asking for help, for protection, for someone to care that he existed. Time seemed to stop as Tyrone stared at that outstretched hand. Tyrone's hands shook as he stared down at the alien child. The boy's small blue hand remained outstretched, trembling but still reaching toward him with impossible hope. Around them, the sounds of battle had faded to an eerie silence. "Williams, what are you waiting for?" Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice cut through the air like a knife. "That's a direct order." The rifle felt impossibly heavy in Tyrone's hands. 5 years of military training screamed at him to follow orders, to complete the mission, to be a good soldier. But something deeper, something more human, whispered that this was wrong. The alien boy spoke again, his voice barely audible. My name. Coda. Please, no hurt Coda. The simple words hit Tyrone like a physical blow. This wasn't just some nameless enemy, this was a child with a name, with feelings, with a life that mattered. Coda looked exactly like the pictures Tyrone's sister drew. Innocent, hopeful, trusting. Sergeant Williams. Rodriguez was getting closer now. Stand down and complete your mission. Tyrone looked around the clearing. His squad mates had finished their grim work and were now watching him. Antoine wiped sweat from his forehead, his rifle still smoking. Lisa stood frozen, staring at an alien family she'd just destroyed, tears streaming down her face. Do it, man, Antoine called out. Just get it over with. But Tyrone couldn't move. Every time he tried to pull the trigger, he saw Keisha's face. He remembered her latest letter. I learned about something called mercy in school today. Teacher says it's what makes us human. Mercy. The word echoed in his mind. Williams, you have 10 seconds to follow orders or face court-martial, Rodriguez threatened, raising his own weapon. Tyrone made his choice. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered his rifle. The weapon dropped from his hands and clattered on the purple grass. Then, moving as carefully as he would with his own sister, Tyrone knelt down and extended his hand toward Coda. It's okay, he whispered. I won't hurt you. The alien boy's eyes widened in surprise. For a moment, he hesitated, probably wondering if this was some kind of trick. Then, with the pure trust that only children possess, Coda reached out and grasped Tyrone's hand. The child's skin was warm, softer than expected. His small fingers gripped Tyrone's with desperate strength, as if holding onto the only good thing left in his world. What the hell are you doing? Rodriguez screamed, his face red with rage. That's treason. No sir, Tyrone said, standing up but keeping Coda's hand in his. This is being human. Antoine stepped forward, his rifle trained on both Tyrone and the child. Ty, what's gotten into you? These things killed our people. Look at him, Antoine, Tyrone said softly. Really look at him. Does this look like a killer to you? Antoine's eyes flicked to Coda, who was now hiding partially behind Tyrone's leg while still holding his hand. The boy was so small, so obviously terrified. For just a moment, doubt flickered across Antoine's face. He'll grow up to be one, Antoine said, but his voice lacked conviction. Maybe, Tyrone replied. Or maybe he'll grow up to be someone who prevents wars instead of starting them. We'll never know if we kill him now. Lisa finally spoke up, her voice shaking. The families here, they weren't soldiers. They were just trying to live their lives. Enough. Rodriguez shouted. All of you, step away from the alien. That's a direct order. I can't do that, sir, Tyrone said, pulling Coda closer. The boy looked up at him with those huge dark eyes, understanding somehow that this human was trying to protect him. Rodriguez raised his rifle toward Tyrone. Then you're both enemy combatants. The other soldiers shifted uncomfortably. They'd followed Tyrone through 3 campaigns. He'd saved their lives more times than they could count. Now their lieutenant was ordering them to shoot their own sergeant. Stand down, all of you, Rodriguez commanded. Williams has committed treason. Anyone who helps him shares his fate. But something had changed in that clearing. Lisa slowly lowered her weapon. Then Johnson, a quiet soldier from Texas. One by one, the other Marines began to question what they were really doing on this peaceful world. Antoine was the last holdout, his rifle still trained on his best friend. Ty, they'll execute you for this. Maybe, Tyrone said. But I'll die knowing I saved an innocent life instead of taking it. Coda tugged on Tyrone's hand and whispered something in his alien language. Then, in careful English, he said, "Thank you." Those 2 simple words changed everything. Even Rodriguez hesitated, seeing not a monster but a grateful child. In that moment of hesitation, Tyrone made his next choice. He activated a smoke grenade from his belt and pulled Coda toward the forest. Run, he told the boy. And together, they disappeared into the alien wilderness. Tyrone and Coda ran through the silver forest for what felt like hours. The alien boy moved with surprising grace, his bare feet making no sound on the spongy purple ground. Behind them, Tyrone could hear his former squad shouting orders, their voices growing fainter with each step. When they finally stopped to rest beside a stream of crystal-clear water, Tyrone realized he had no idea what to do next. He was a deserter now, a traitor to his own species. But looking down at Coda, who was drinking from the stream with cupped hands, he felt no regret. "You safe now," Coda said in his broken English, offering Tyrone some water. Coda help human friend. The simple kindness in those words hit Tyrone hard. Here was a child whose entire family had just been murdered by humans, and he was still trying to help his rescuer. Over the next 2 days, they moved deeper into the forest, avoiding both human patrols and groups of surviving aliens who viewed Tyrone with understandable suspicion. Coda proved to be an excellent guide, knowing which plants were safe to eat and where to find fresh water. On the third night, as they sheltered in a cave lit by glowing moss, something extraordinary happened. Coda placed his small hand on Tyrone's forehead and whispered words in his own language. Suddenly, Tyrone's mind filled with images that weren't his own. He saw Nova 7 as it was before humans arrived, a world of incredible beauty and peace. Cities that grew like living things, blending seamlessly with nature. Aliens working together in perfect harmony, their technology focused on healing and growth rather than destruction. He witnessed Coda's memories of his parents, loving beings who sang him to sleep with melodies that made flowers bloom brighter. He saw the boy's first day at what humans might call school, where children learned to communicate with plants and animals. Then came the darker memories. The first human ships appearing in the sky like metal storms. The confusion as explosions rained down from orbit. Coda's father trying to shield his family as their home was destroyed. The desperate flight to the refugee camp that Tyrone's squad had found. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Through Coda's shared memories, Tyrone saw the truth about the attacks on human colonies. They weren't acts of aggression, they were rescue missions. Alien parents, driven to desperation, trying to save their children who had been taken by human scientists for research. He witnessed terrified alien youngsters in laboratory cages, subjected to painful experiments. He saw desperate parents making impossible choices, raid human facilities to save their children or watch them disappear forever. The savage attacks that justified this military campaign were actually the actions of grief-stricken families trying to retrieve their stolen children. When the visions ended, Tyrone found himself crying. Everything he'd been told was a lie. The aliens weren't monsters, they were victims of humanity's expansion across the stars. Your people, Tyrone whispered to Coda, they were just trying to save their families. Coda nodded sadly. Humans take children. Study them like animals. Parents try to bring them home. But humans say aliens bad, aliens dangerous. The weight of this knowledge crushed down on Tyrone like a physical force. How many worlds had they pacified? How many families had they destroyed in the name of protecting humanity? How many children like Coda had he killed without ever knowing their stories? I'm sorry, Tyrone said, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry for what we've done. Coda studied his face with those large, intelligent eyes. Then he did something that nearly broke Tyrone's heart. He reached out and wiped away the human's tears. Not all humans bad, the boy said softly. You prove this. You choose to be good. Over the following days, as they continued to evade capture, Coda shared more of his people's history. He told Tyrone about their philosophy of harmony, their belief that all life was connected, their dreams of one day meeting other species as friends rather than enemies. We want to learn from humans, Coda explained as they watched one of Nova 7's spectacular sunsets. Your people very smart, build amazing things. But humans scared of what different. Fear make good people do bad things. Tyrone thought about his fellow soldiers, Antoine with his grief over his brother's death, Lisa struggling with orders that went against her teacher's heart, even young Lieutenant Rodriguez following propaganda he'd never questioned. Maybe fear is what makes us human, Tyrone said. But maybe choosing to overcome that fear is what makes us better. As night fell and the alien boy curled up beside him for warmth, Tyrone made a decision that would change both their lives forever. He couldn't undo the harm he'd caused, but he could prevent more harm from happening. He pulled out his military communicator and began recording a message that would shake the foundations of human expansion. On the 7th day, they found themselves surrounded. Tyrone had been expecting this moment. You can't hide forever on an alien world when both sides are hunting you. But he hadn't expected to be caught between two armies at the same time. Human Marines emerged from behind the silver trees on one side, their weapons trained on him. On the other side, a group of alien survivors stepped out of hiding, their faces twisted with anger and grief. Both groups wanted justice, but they had very different ideas about what that meant. Drop your weapon and step away from the alien. Lieutenant Rodriguez shouted through a megaphone. Behind him, Tyrone could see Antoine and Lisa, their faces grim but conflicted. From the other side, an elderly alien male spoke in accented English. Give us the human, little one. He has killed our people. He must pay. Coda pressed closer to Tyrone, his small hand gripping the soldier's arm. In the past week, the boy had learned more English, and his trust in Tyrone had only grown stronger. No, Coda called out to both groups. He good human. He save Coda. He's sorry for bad things. You have 30 seconds to comply, Williams, Rodriguez warned. After that, we consider you both hostile targets. Tyrone looked at the faces around him, angry humans who saw him as a traitor, grieving aliens who saw him as a killer, and one small boy who saw him as a friend. He thought about his sister Keisha back on Mars, probably wondering why his letters had stopped coming. Then he made his choice. Pulling out his military communicator, Tyrone activated the emergency broadcast channel, a frequency that reached every human ship and colony in the sector. This is Sergeant Tyrone Williams of the 3rd Colonial Marines, broadcasting from Nova 7, he said, his voice steady despite the weapons pointed at him. I need everyone to hear what I'm about to tell you. Williams, shut that off immediately. Rodriguez screamed. But Tyrone kept talking. 7 days ago, I was ordered to kill alien civilians, including children. I was told they were dangerous enemies who threatened human lives. That was a lie. He placed his free hand on Coda's shoulder. The boy understood what was happening and pressed his palm against the communicator, using his people's natural ability to share memories through touch. Across human space, something unprecedented happened. Through the alien child's gift, people didn't just hear Tyrone's words, they experienced Coda's memories. They felt the terror of orbital bombardment, the grief of parents losing children, the confusion of a peaceful species under attack. On Earth, a woman watching the news suddenly understood the fear of an alien mother searching for her missing child. On Mars, Tyrone's own sister felt the loneliness of a young alien boy hiding from soldiers. In space stations throughout the galaxy, humans experienced what it was like to have their world destroyed by beings they tried to welcome as friends. The broadcast reached military command centers, where generals saw the truth about their pacification campaigns. It reached government offices, where politicians realized their expansion policies were built on lies. Most importantly, it reached ordinary people who had never questioned why humanity needed to fight so many alien species. The attacks on our colonies weren't acts of war, Tyrone continued, his voice carrying across the stars. They were rescue missions. Parents trying to save their children from our research facilities. Everything we've been told about these people is wrong. They're not our enemies, we're theirs. Through the communicator, he could hear the chaos his broadcast was causing. News anchors struggling to process the information, military officials shouting orders to cut the transmission, and the growing roar of public outcry. But Tyrone wasn't finished. Looking directly at Lieutenant Rodriguez, he made his final statement. I'm a soldier, and I've followed orders my whole career. But some orders are wrong. Some fights aren't worth winning. And some enemies are just families trying to survive. The communicator crackled as command tried to jam the signal, but it was too late. The truth was already spreading faster than any military could contain it. Rodriguez lowered his weapon, his face pale with the realization of what this broadcast meant for his career, his beliefs, everything he thought he knew about their mission. On the other side, the alien survivors were also lowering their weapons. Seeing their memories shared with humans, watching a human soldier risk everything to protect one of their children, had changed something fundamental. Coda looked up at Tyrone with those large, trusting eyes. What happened now? Tyrone smiled, even though he knew court-martial and probably execution awaited him. Now? Now things change. Within hours, protests erupted across human space. The Nova 7 campaign was suspended. Congressional hearings began. And in a small clearing on an alien world, a human soldier and an alien child sat together, watching two species take their first steps toward understanding each other. Sometimes the most important battles are fought not with weapons, but with truth.